You are looking at Prisoner 106, on the books as a dangerous armed robber. He is preparing to enter what many call hell on earth, solitary confinement. Before you meet its residents, just listen to them.
This is prison. You know, we're not here for being nice.
I've seen guys resort to cutting themselves and killing themselves, you know?
As Prisoner 106 is moved into the unit,
I don't know that I have ever felt as vulnerable as I do right now.
the thing almost nobody here knows is that this inmate is actually the Secretary of Corrections for the state of New Mexico, Greg Marcantel, a former cop who spent a career putting away bad guys. He's now going to try to spend 48 hours living among the worst of the worst. This surveillance footage.
Don't off yourself, Greg. At the 48 hours of this stuff, it's not for everybody. Everybody cannot handle this. Welcome to another episode, everyone. Welcome to the Inside Story with me, Damian Porter, the man and the individual who done over 30 years, unfortunately, of incarceration for those who do not know. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so, please. And as you just heard, we're taking you to solitary confinement, where it is hell on earth. I've done many years in solitary confinement, and it's no good. It's not for human consumption. Neither is prison. As you just heard, this individual is an undercover cop, sitting there with John Walsh from America's Most Wanted. But he's going in here for some experiment, or going in here as an undercover for whatever reason. Check out the conditions. What they say, he's the Secretary of Corrections or what have you. So he's trying to see how how these individuals are treated here in the hole, in solitary confinement, administrative segregation. Let's see what he uncovers here, and if he can hang in here for 48 hours.
Shows what these men are capable of if they get loose.
This is a public safety issue.
So why is the secretary willing to put himself through this? He's decided he wants to reform the state's use of solitary because most of these inmates will end up right back on our streets.
We're sending people back to our neighborhoods worse than when they came.
As the clock starts running on his 48-hour lockdown, the secretary settles into his 12-by-7 concrete cell. Level 6 is divided up into 3 separate units, housing a total of 282 inmates. In here for crimes ranging from rape to armed robbery to murder. Combined, these men have killed 138 people. In cell 111 is Freddie Munoz.
This is my home right here. For good or bad, this is it.
Growing up, Munoz wanted to be an astronaut, but at age 13...
Astronaut? For good or bad? Oh, it's bad. It's all bad. It's very bad if this is your home. So it's only 282 people, I believe he said, here in this particular administrative segregation, AKA hole. And out of those 282 people, they're responsible together for 182 murders. Sheesh, nearly a murderer person. Some murderous individuals here. And so the secretary who's there undercover indeed is there for reform purposes. He says that these individuals here in the hole, in solitary confinement, the inmates there are going to be returning to society at some juncture. They're going to be returning to society, whatever their parole date is, and that we are sending them back into society worse than when they came in. This is what he just said, that he wants to reform solitary confinement because basically it's torture. This is abuse. These are my words. And these individuals then are not being rehabilitated. They're coming out from solitary confinement angry, bitter, aggressive, etc. And then they're returning to society, and you have to deal with them on the sidewalk on a dark street when you're coming home from work. And so I suppose his whole point is then that he wants to change solitary confinement so that it's not so aggressive and offensive, not so dehumanizing, so that these individuals who have to go to solitary confinement for whatever reason will not grow bitter and angry based on their condition and then come out into society possessing this anger and take it out on you and I.
He got caught up in gangs.
How many murders did you commit? Two murders.
Because of his violent past and his gang affiliation, prison officials have kept him in a cell like this every day for the past 10 years. These four walls are all he's got. He knows every crack, every inch of peeling paint.
What does that do to your head?
It is perpetual misery.
That's an accurate description. Perpetual misery. Yes, that's an accurate way to put that. I know because I've been there. I did 4 years I did 38 months in the SHU program, security housing unit, and in Corcoran and Tehachapi SHU for conspiracy to murder correctional officers. Me and 8 other individuals. They had rounded up some high-ranking individuals, a few of them, from different territories, if you will. There in High Desert State Prison in California. At any rate, this individual here, I believe he said his name was Munoz or something, Munoz, has been here in the hole for 10 years. 10 years. Doesn't even have a TV in there, at least in the SHU and even in some holes in California, but certainly in the SHU program, which is where you're going to go if you're going to be there for years. You're going to the SHU because you can have a TV in the SHU or a radio. And if you have a celly, you cannot have both. You can either have your TV or you can have your radio. On the main line, you can have both. TV, your radio, Walkman, headphones, all of this stuff, of course, on the main line, tennis shoes, what have you. They're in the hole, not so much, or in the SHU, but you do have a choice. Of course, most people choose their TV over the radio, but not all people choose such. But if you have a celly, then, you come together, you say, you get your TV, I'll get my radio. There's really no need for us both to have TVs in here unless we don't get along and can't agree on what we're going to watch. But if I'm going to give up my TV to get the radio for both of us, then we're going to have to agree on the programs we're going to watch on the TV. But at any rate, this individual here apparently doesn't even have a TV inside of the cell, been in there for 10 years. I don't know what state this is in, but this is not California. I can tell by the design of the cells and the room and the day room, although there's of similar design, but they're not the same. And there's no TV that I've seen unless I've missed something here. To be sitting there for 10 years, I would say that's inhumane, dehumanizing, and torturous. That's torture. Now, as I have aforementioned, the people in the state of California in the SHU program were also there for many years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and more. Essentially, the gang leaders of prominent gangs and prominent prison gangs, as the authorities wanted to minimize the violence on the yards, and they felt like by locking up these so-called shot callers, not necessarily so-called, many of them were indeed shot callers, that would help to mitigate the violence on the yard. Not necessarily so. The violence raged on every prison yard in California as per normal. After a few hunger strikes and much outrage, they overturned the process of being able to lock these shot callers up in the SHU program for all of these years. And they let them all out of the SHU program. And now you have to do something to go to the SHU. It used to be that you're a shot caller, cuff you up and take you to the SHU program. That's it. That's all they needed. Now you have to stab someone, beat someone. Being a shot caller is not enough to have you sitting in the SHU program forever. So this is certainly not California, because apparently, if I just heard this right, this individual has been in this cell for 10 years based on the fact that he has a violent past and that he has, he's a gang member or a gang leader. All of this same stuff that they were talking about in California when they were locking individuals up in these cells for 10 plus years. But again, they can no longer do that in California. Everyone stood up. I was involved in the hunger strike. And they can no longer do this. And even then, when they were doing it, as I said, you would go to the SHU program and you can have your TV, radio, get canteen once a month, just like you get canteen once a month on the main line. I don't even see any canteen inside of his cell. Like, he's really in there doing some tough living. I'm saying I don't see soups and chips and coffee and beans and rice and deodorant and soap. And well, he does have a chain on his neck. So I don't know, but the cell looks pretty bare to have to sit in there essentially 24 hours a day for 10 years. And then what? Release him back into society? You think he's happy? You think this is a happy individual right now? Or you think he has I don't want to judge him. I don't know him, obviously, but, what would you lean towards more? That he would have a short temper with you? And if you had a conflict with him inside of the store or outside of a store, inside of a mall, would he be willing and ready to resolve the conflict peacefully? Perhaps. Because he doesn't want to return here, or it could have the opposite effect, and he's angry with everyone, including society. And one small conflict could spill over into a lot of bloodshed. This is what the undercover secretary is talking about. This is why he wants to reform this whole thing, and he needs to take a cue from California and overturn this system where you can lock these individuals inside of a cell for 10 plus years, 10 years and counting, particularly without even anything to occupy yourself. This is sensory deprivation. He doesn't have even anything to occupy his mind. I don't even see any books in there, again, unless I have missed something. It's hard to stimulate your mind. We're talking about every day, all day, living like this 24 hours a day. The walls will begin to close in on anyone. It'll have an effect on anyone's mind and soul. And if you have any human feeling, then you will be against seeing someone live like this. Yes, he took 2 lives, but that's not why he's in the hole. He's already being punished for that. He has a life sentence, I'm sure. And you don't go to prison for punishment. You go to prison as punishment. You don't go there to be punished once you are already there, which they have a propensity to do, the authorities. Shout out to this individual for apparently staying strong through what is clearly horrendous conditions.
It's ennui, it's monotony, it's repetition.
He says the only way to keep it together in here is to establish a strict routine, a sort of imitation of life.
I exercise, I read a lot. If I didn't have books, I probably would have already gone insane.
A few cells away, Daniel Herrera. He's also in solitary because of his gang affiliation. He's 23 years old and serving a sentence for kidnapping.
This is where we live. I mean, right here you can see the width of our rooms.
At our request, he shows us one of the tricks of solitary. This is called fishing.
A fishing line to communicate with neighbors and stuff like that. You send it to your neighbor. So that's how we fish and get things from one cell to another in here without getting caught or getting in trouble.
Back in Secretary Mercantile's cell, 9 hours in, he brushes his teeth and gets ready for a long night in a strange and hidden world. Officer Joseph Vishaway makes his morning rounds. It's chow time.
Looked like it just said the Penitentiary of New Mexico. I believe that's what it just said. I don't really want to go back to it. I want to keep the video going. I believe that's what it said of New Mexico. It might be in New Mexico. This is horrible. There's somewhere that is horrible. This isolation alone will break an individual, will break you mentally. The isolation alone. And so apparently the individual does indeed have books. I didn't see any, but he said that he's been reading, and that's the only thing that is keeping him sane are the books. So he does at least have books. And yeah, as I was saying, like, he doesn't even have books. This will drive someone crazy because, as he just alluded to, the books have been keeping him sane. So he does at least have that. But as I stated earlier and suspected, I still didn't see a TV in there. The cell seemed rather bare. No food, no anything. That is hard living. That is hard living. That is hard living right here, man. Stay out of here. Stay out. Stay free. For real.
When collecting the food trays, Officer Vishaway makes sure nobody has broken off a piece of plastic which could be used to create a weapon.
Is this a dangerous job?
It takes a certain type of person to do it. We're working inside the lion's cage with the lion.
To keep themselves safe, the officers follow rigid protocols. For example, there's a strip search for weapons or contraband every time they take an inmate out to the yard, which is known as the rec cage.
Locked down 23 hours a day, sitting reminiscing on how my life was stripped away.
And coming back is equally coordinated.
Just bringing this inmate from the rec pen into his unit, there's a choreography.
Look, man, that's it. I have exercised in those cages. I've lived in those cages. They have those same cages in Tehachapi Shoe, even though they have group yard as well in Tehachapi Shoe. But you do something on the yard and group yard, have a fight, whatever, they're going to put you in the cages. They have a separate group that are specifically for cages for different reasons. They'll put you in there. But in Corcoran Shoe, it's just straight cages for the most part. Well, yeah, when I was there was no group yard. They put us all in cages, or more cages than that, just, maybe 20 cages or something lined up. You and your cellie go in a cage and everybody works out routine and unison and all that, but it's cages just like this. Not too big, but it's very dehumanizing and animalistic to be. You're already in prison, you're already locked up, barbed wire everywhere, guns everywhere, to make sure that you do not escape. And on top of that, you have to be inside of a cage. They're in prison, in solitary confinement, and the SHU program and all of that. Further damaging your psyche. This is not a pity party for inmates. I understand many of you are going to say, well, they committed a crime, so they're not supposed to have fun in prison. It's supposed to be tough and etc. We don't care. Lock them up and throw away the key. That's fine if that is your take, even though most of the mass majority of Americans who had that take before, who carried that position, no longer carry that position. The masses have changed their minds about some of these egregious laws, draconian laws that are on the books, understanding who the laws were designed to damage. But for those who may still harbor certain sentiments as that, understand that these individuals again are returning to society. They're going to be in your workforce, in your workplace, at your job. You want to piss them off, you want to upset them after they have been through this and live like this. You may think you do, but their reaction may not be normal. It may be abnormal because the way they have lived for decades was abnormal. You just don't know this. So my only point being that we have to be careful how we treat individuals, even though they may be in prison, not just because they're going to return to society at some point and you are going to be faced with them at the supporting such dehumanizing policies, but just based on your own humanity. You should find this outrageous. Him living in that cell without much for 10 years, living in cages like this. Most of you love your dog, kiss your dog in the mouth. You won't even treat your dog like this.
Inmates get an hour a day outside of their cell. Being walked back to your cell by 2 guards is probably the only human contact you get all day.
It's 24 hours into his stay, and the confinement is starting to get to the secretary. He's trying to pass the time by working out, but there's only so much of that you can do. Claustrophobia is setting in.
I felt like the cell was kind of squeezing down on me.
He is getting a taste of why this form of punishment has become so controversial. Not only can it be 3 times as expensive as regular incarceration, but critics call it legalized torture. We are social animals. We're built for interaction. Take that away, and critics say inmates can literally lose their minds. But many corrections officials say it's a necessary tool to control a dangerous population. As a prime example, they point to an inmate like Nathaniel Stein.
I don't think I've ever interviewed somebody before who's being restrained by 2 officers. Would you consider yourself a dangerous man?
No.
However, he is in solitary for viciously attacking a corrections officer.
What?
And I will not deny, having been in prison myself for many years, many decades, as I have alluded to, that isolation is sometimes necessary to mitigate the violence on any prison yard or what have you, in any prison situation. But there are ways to do this that are more humanizing than what we are witnessing here. That is the point. And as we can see, the secretary is getting claustrophobic. He's 24 hours in, and the narrator here says that it's already beginning to get to him, that he wants out, basically, after 24 hours. So then, and he said this is why, you have many proponents to end SHU programs and holes everywhere because they call it torture. They believe that people who have been through this, who sat in the SHU program for 2 and 3 years and 10 and 15 years, have been tortured. It is indeed a form of torture. You don't think that that's torture sitting in that cell for 10 years? Go try it. So there are different ways to handle it. So just imagine if this individual, he's probably a strong individual, he's a secretary, he's smart, he's moved on up, he's been an officer and involved in this field for many years, and he has some sort of strength about him, some sort of strength of character, one way or another. And he's not just some little weakling, some little bum on the street. He has something going for himself. And yet, he's probably been in the military and everything else, but after 24 hours of this, he's done. He's ready to tap out. So imagine then what the individual is going through who has been in that cell for 10 years. You can't take it for 24 hours. One day. It's not a knock on you that you can't take it for one day. No one should have to, is the point. I get it that you can't take that shit for one day. I understand. It's torture. Many people would not be able to take it for one day. So why should that man have to stand there for 10 years? Yes, you did not commit 2 murders, and he did. But what gives you're no better than him if you're trying to slowly kill him? Who are you? What gives you the right to make that call? Let his God judge him. Don't you all believe in God?
Why did you do that?
That's a tough question. It was just a situation. I don't know why.
I do notice that when you are fessing up to something, you do smile.
I don't know why I do that.
The signal to me is that you don't feel badly about it.
Do I feel bad for the things I don't really feel bad for the things I've done. You know what I mean?
On the flip side, there are inmates like Freddie Munoz, who despite the severity of his crimes, has been a model inmate and renounced his gang affiliation. Munoz is now one of a select few handpicked to move out of solitary and into the general population of the prison as part of the Secretary's plan to reduce the population in solitary.
To be able to go outside without being handcuffed and restrained every day, I think that would be very good for me.
It's the final morning for this undercover boss. Finally, the moment he's been waiting for. Release. After 48 hours on the inside, he's concluded solitary should be used, but sparingly and only for the most dangerous.
You're gonna have people who say any more than 30 days is torture. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. There is a such thing as evil. And it's up to me to make sure that not only am I protecting other inmates from them, but I'm also protecting my staff from them.
Days later, Freddie Munoz, Daniel Herrera, and 6 other inmates are brought out of level 6 solitary in preparation for an eventual return to the general prison population. Here, for the first time in years, they'll actually be able to sit next to one another and have real human contact.
How does it feel?
It's good.
Sitting next to each other.
It's great. Good. This is living right here, finally.
These men, part of an experiment and part of a trend as New Mexico and the nation take its first steps away from this costly, controversial form of punishment. For Nightline, this is Dan Harris.
Wow. Whoa. All right, there you have it, people. Let me know what you think in the comments. You know, it's tough. All of you in similar situations, be strong and stay strong. You know, it's tough. Bless those individuals for getting out of the hole. You know, shout out to the Secretary for, you know, having the heart to change these policies, or to be willing to change these policies, to let those individuals out of the hole after 10 years. You know, and you see that they were happy just to be able to sit next to each other. You sit in the hole, you see they're in the cages and all that, no human contact. 10 years. Cuffed up every time you come out of your cell. Oh, man, it brings back memories, man. It's torture, bro. It is torture. You know, so we take a lot of things for granted. You know, of course, again, I get it. We didn't commit those crimes that, you know, they are perhaps guilty of, or some of them are guilty of, been found guilty of, or what have you, have admitted to, etc. He said that he killed 2 people. He admitted to that. But still, none of us are perfect. None of us know the situation or the circumstances. And who are we to judge? I still say that no individual deserves to be tortured, particularly in that sort of way. So I'm glad to see them get some sort of freedom. They're still in prison. It's not like they're coming home. It's not like they came home. It's not like they're being soft on crime because they're letting them out of this torture chamber. No. They're still about to go through hell. They're still inside of a cell. They just don't have to live like that. Can perhaps get a TV, get some soups and chips or something. Feel like a human being again. I mean, man. You disagree, then you're a sick individual. You just don't have any human feeling, man. But the objective then, the primary objective, of course, would be to stay out of these sort of situations, to stay out of prison. Because once you're in there, you can't control how you're going to be treated, how the prison runs and all of that. You have no more control over your life. It's all over. You relinquish control of your life to the system. They are going to control your life. They are going to say what happens from here on out and what does not happen. You don't call the shots over your life anymore. You belong to us, boy. We tell you what to do and how and when and where to do it. If you don't want that and do not want to live like that, then do not be out here on the streets committing crimes or playing tough or being someone that you're not or being someone that you are. If you are that way, then change who you are. Change what you are, at least. Change what you are doing. Anything that leads you to this situation, give it up now. Anything that'll lead you to prison, give it up now. Stay safe and stay free, people.